Thank you, Kwame. It's really great to be back in Rolla. I haven't been back for a very long time. My memories of August in Rolla were sweating it out on football practice down the road here. So I'm pleased to be here in here with you today rather than doing that. But yeah, really fond memories of my time here at the university. My home now is in southern Arizona, so what I want to talk to you about today is an exciting project we've been working on for about 6 years now with a focus on workforce development in a greenfield project. So a little bit of background and context. Maybe first start with South 32, not well known in the US. It's about a $10 billion market cap company based in Perth in Western Australia. Mature operations in South Africa, Australia, Colombia, Brazil, other locations in the world, but this is our first project in North America. Largest producer of manganese ore in the world, top 3 producer in the aluminum value chain from bauxite mining through to aluminum smelting, base metals production in Chile and Queensland and other parts of the world. About 3 years ago, we started a pivot to changing our portfolio to focus more on base metals needed for decarbonization, future-facing metals, and that's how we got into the Hermosa project in early 2019. So I've been involved with the project from when it was just an exploration project. In the last 6 years, we've taken it through a concept study, pre-feasibility phase, feasibility study, and last February, our board sanctioned the project and funded it for full construction. So obviously, as we're working through this, workforce is becoming a big issue for us. 2 critical minerals. It is a true critical minerals project. We're not producing critical minerals as byproducts. We have one of the largest undeveloped zinc deposits in the world. Zinc was added to the USGS critical minerals list in 2022. I think we know we produce about 6% of the zinc in the world domestically. We forecast by 2034 there'll be a 4 million ton supply and demand gap that would require 3 deposits of this size developed every year between now and then to close that gap, and this is one of the only new deposits of this scale discovered globally in the last 10 years. So we have a zinc crisis looming, and so this is an important strategic resource in that standpoint. We also have co-located a high-purity battery-grade manganese deposit that's targeting the electric vehicle battery market. It would be the only fully integrated source, so we will mine it and process it in southern Arizona into a finished product. We've been producing a battery-grade manganese from a pilot plant for the last 2 years for customer testing, and so that part of the project is moving forward as well. We do have 45,000 acres of exploration tenements around the project where we're doing exploration. We have 15 different projects and prospects that we think are going to develop into additional projects. We're located about 60 miles southeast of Tucson. If you've ever been to southern Arizona and know where Nogales is on the border, we're about 22 miles to the northeast in the Patagonia Mountains, about 10 miles north of the Mexican border. So a few things that are unique. This is one of the few examples of a new greenfield mine development that is fully permitted, fully funded, and in construction. So our board made a decision last February to commit $2.2 billion of operating cash flow to build the project. Up until that point, we'd spent about $500 million, so we're all in, going to be nearly $3 billion by the time we hit first production in the first half of 2027. It is fully permitted. We have about almost $200 million in grants from DoD and DOE to accelerate the manganese deposit with the efforts to onshore critical mineral supply chains. The construction is now about 40% complete. We have about 700 people working on construction. We're developing twin shafts to access the zinc deposit, which you can see there. One of those is about half done, the other's slightly behind that. Developing a decline to access the manganese deposit that's about 50% done. And I've got some slides in a minute that show a photo. The process plant construction has commenced. We'll be up to about 1,000 people in construction by the end of this year and first zinc production in the first half of 2027. So given we're about 18 months away from early production, workforce is becoming front and center for us. It's probably, I would say, from a strategic imperative standpoint, gone to the forefront in what we're focusing on with the progress we've made. And so I want to talk about this probably in a more holistic sense. I'm not the right person to talk to you necessarily about the details and all the statistics around retirements and the gray tsunami, as people are referring to it, and all the challenges we have around mining engineers and the science and STEM professions in the industry. I think we all know that story, and certainly we see that. In a greenfield project, it's all of workforce. That is a problem, but we also have similar problems in terms of frontline roles and operating mines these days. And we have to think about it from an all of workforce standpoint. So I'm going to speak about all of workforce, including the STEM and engineering professions. I think as we think about greenfield projects, and I'm hopeful that more projects like this are going to get approved soon, and we start to see the mining industry grow again and new developments, I think that's going to put tremendous pressure on the problem we already have. And I break the challenges down into two phases. Having sort of gone through the full project development phase, the first challenge we have in the project phase is those retirements, and that exodus of talent, I think, becomes most evident very early in the project development phase. So we've seen significant challenges in loss of experience in our consultants and contractors through the study phase, particularly in not just in mining engineering, but in project engineering and the other engineering disciplines. And the specialist skills around project controls, now that we're in field execution, experienced leadership in field execution has been a challenge. We use IPA to do a lot of benchmarking on the project phase. They have indicated that in their database, the average schedule slip in engineering in the study phase is pushing 30% now. That is very much a factor of experience, capability, and capacity. You almost have to plan for it now. As we shift now into looking at our permanent workforce, we've got some different challenges. We're in a very rural area. We're in the Copper State. We're in Arizona, but we're not in a part of the state that's had a lot of mining for a very long time. We're not in the Copper Triangle. We're not in northern Nevada, where you have an existing workforce to draw on. And we don't necessarily believe it's the right thing to draw from that pool and import large experienced workers into our region. So we're talking about how do we home grow a workforce. That's obviously inhibited quite a bit by some of the challenges we still have around the image of the industry. As far as bringing in and tapping into the existing workforce pool, we see more advantages around stability, around community, and around availability of home growing a workforce to the fullest extent possible. But to do that, we've got to overcome the image and reputation issues. We find as we start to bring new people into the industry, the perceptions around sustainability, around it being a last century industry, around it being a low-tech industry, not understanding career opportunities, the breadth of career opportunities is a real challenge. Photo on the bottom left is the process plant construction commencing, shaft sinking on the right, just a few other photos there. One of the things I want to talk about is this is not a typical mining community, and I'm going to approach this a little bit as a case study and talk about what we're doing and some of our challenges. If we're going to onshore critical mineral supply chains, we're going to start to develop, and hopefully this starts to happen now with permitting approvals and things starting to come through. We're going to have mining in areas that we haven't had it in a long time, or maybe that we've never had it at all, which is the situation where we are now. That means communities that haven't had a depth of experience with our industry. The community we're in, it's a border community. The unemployment's nearly double the state average. It's over 10%. The per capita income well below the state average. It's an impoverished community. It's an English as a second language community with limited mining experience. That's a challenge from a workforce standpoint, but the way we view this, and I think the way the industry ought to view this, is it's a huge opportunity as well in terms of creating value for communities and lifting our country up at the same time. And that leads me to this point, and this is where I think it's different for a greenfield project compared to mature operation. So we're going into communities that haven't had modern mining, and that, as I said, I think that's going to be increasingly important. So as we start to think about workforce, the ability to attract skilled people to develop the project is obviously the biggest part of it. To safely operate the project from our perspective is the biggest part of it, but it's not the only consideration. The bigger challenge we have in a greenfield project context is the social license to operate. Many of the projects around the country that have got hung up in permitting, that aren't moving forward, part of what's at the heart of that has been a social license challenge with stakeholders or communities. There's an opportunity to solve all these, I think, at the same time. This is as critical as actually getting your regulatory permits today. Employment and career opportunities are the biggest part of that. Yes, these projects generate a lot of revenue, but to the extent we generate jobs, generational wealth from these jobs, especially in communities like this, it's a game changer. I also believe our workforce should reflect our host community. We almost don't have a choice. Like, we're not going to be able to import large numbers of workers into an area like this that have significant amount of underground mining experience. But at the same time, to secure a license to operate, the workforce has to reflect the host community. And that's about creating shared value. If there's not shared value for the community, I don't know why they would want these projects in their community. And employment's the biggest part of that. There's a real opportunity here from communities that haven't had a pipeline to the universities in the STEM careers, whether it's mining engineering or others, I think to create those pipelines. And from where I sit today, I'm sort of 34th year in the industry. I've been worked in multiple countries and other places. I really think we have a serious math problem. So regardless of what you think about drawing workforce from the entire community and having a workforce that looks different to the workforce we've had in the past, whatever you think about that, I don't think we will be able to staff these projects and operate these projects safely unless we start to draw workforce from the entire community, not the pool of people we've drawn historically. If we do that, I don't think the math works, and I also don't think we will have a culture or a place of work where we can have the numbers to operate these projects safely. We do have a huge opportunity from a culture standpoint, I think, to bring in lots of new people. We're going to work fundamentally differently. We're going to train for different skills. We're going to have completely different ways of working. So a little bit about our approach, given all of that context. We have made a commitment to our local community that when we're at full run rate, running at full production, at least 80% of our workforce will be from the community. That's a big task, given we're a part of the country that hasn't had mining. Limited mining experience, limited workforce development, ecosystems, all of that. We've created a dedicated team within our HR group in Southern Arizona that's doing nothing but workforce development. So we have one piece that's supporting the business, doing the day-to-day employee relations, and we have senior leadership and resources dedicated to nothing but developing the long-term operational workforce. That's a lot about partnership with community. We have a strategic plan and a vision that was developed collaboratively with local stakeholders, and we have a team internally that's driving it. I think this is a theme. There's going to need to be a lot more active involvement from companies. We've probably operated in places before where there was established workforce development ecosystem, structures, programs. You go say, okay, I need this many people with this skills and this many people with those skills, and they would make it happen for you. I think that's increasingly not going to be the case, and it's absolutely not the case where we are. We're having to convene community leaders, education leaders, community colleges, and others to develop the plan and deliver on that plan. We have a cross-functional task force of local educators that's developed a strategic plan. Our first local workforce development program starts actually this month. We will begin training for electricians, frontline electrician roles in the community this month. Partnership's really important, and what that looks like is different depending on who the partner is. We'll have a period of time underground where we'll have the operation run by contractors. So the initial lateral development to get from the shaft bottom to the first stope will be all contractor workforce. We'll have a period of time where everything will be done by contractors. In part of the tender for that work, we're requiring those contractors to work with us on local hiring, local training, shadowing, so that we can come out of the other side with more underground skills and experience. Our OEMs, so we've just placed the largest order of battery electric equipment in the history of the industry. We will be all battery electric equipment underground by the time we hit full production. The two OEMs we're working with on that are required to locate themselves in the county where we are, in the community. They're required to do local apprenticeship programs and hire locally as well. So partnering with OEMs and contractors is a big part of it. I talked about the community colleges. We have an MOU that drives the strategic plan developed with the Provisional College in the county as well as Pima Community College in Tucson. A lot of partnerships. We're fortunate to be in Tucson with the University of Arizona. I know Cray Luxbacher is going to be on a panel later today. There's a lot of collaboration there on the professional side. But I think it's really important. We started 6 years ago when this project was still prior to pre-feasibility study in the elementary schools and in the middle schools, embedding STEM programs. One, to promote STEM, but also to start to learn about mining. A lot of good outreach in our region. The U of A has a really good K-12 outreach program around mining that's started to come into our community as well. But we've got STEM and robotics programs in the elementary and middle schools that are starting to expose local communities to mining at an early stage. Technology is the key. I strongly believe probably the use of technology is going to be the best way for us to get new people in the industry. And I've got an example on the next slide I'll talk to you about on that. We talk about culture as a differentiator. I think the next generation, a lot of these things on the right-hand side of the slide there, the next generation, I think we've all learned and know they value different things. They want different things in a workplace. That's where I think technology is the key enabler. But for us, creating the ways of working, the use of technology, and an inclusive culture that welcomes new people into the industry, I think is the differentiator where we will get the people that we need and get the best people. Employee value proposition, there's a perception around the way we work in mining that gets in the way, I think, of bringing new people into the industry. Obviously, location is a challenge sometimes. I think technology is going to be key to that, which I said I'll talk about on the next slide. But we have to think about how we're able to attract a new generation of people into operational roles to want to work at these sites and maintain the flexibility and things that they desire. The thing that I think is really extremely critical at this stage for us, we talk about next generation storytelling. So we talk about this mine as a next generation mine because of the way we use technology, the sustainability profile of it, and we've been out actively telling that story, and I think that's something the whole industry needs to do. We'll use 90% less water than a historical mine. We'll disturb 95% less land than what we've seen historically. We'll have all battery electric fleets. We have a path to be a net zero mining operation, and we have a no net loss of biodiversity plan that we're executing on as well. Those things are important. They're important for social license, they're important for permitting, but they're also important to attract different parts into our generation and address those legacy issues around the perceptions on sustainability. The last thing I'll say is about mentorship. So on the professional side, we've done a lot of taking students from the local community that have gone off to get a degree at a university. It may or may not be a mining engineering degree, some kind of degree, found ways to bring them back into our business and paired them with an experienced person that's probably late career, probably wants to work a few more years and then move on to something else. And we got a really good story around a local community member that went out of state to university, got an environmental science degree, knew nothing about mining, but was very interested in geochemistry. We had a contract geochemist, 40-year person, was about to retire. We brought her back, sponsoring her for her master's, paired her with that geochemist, and we're almost to the end of this program now, and we've got a local community member that will be our geochemist, someone who never thought about coming into mining. So we're trying to replicate that story over and over. Not sure why it's not advancing. There we go. I talked about technology being the key, and this is a good example. Hopefully this will crystallize that point. So all of our primary production processes underground will either be fully automated, semi-autonomous, or remotely operated. We really won't have people on equipment underground. We made a decision last April to build a facility we call Centro. It's an integrated remote operating center, which will kind of be the nerve center or the hub of the operation. It's the facility where people will monitor the autonomous equipment underground, remotely operate equipment that's underground, or monitor the semi-autonomous equipment. We'll do all our planning, short interval control, all those sorts of things. absolutely next generation facility. I've been involved in developing a few of these outside the U.S. and other parts of the world. This will be a world-class facility. What we tend to do in these operations, though, is we tend to locate these remote operating centers in big cities. In Australia, the big remote operating centers are either in Perth or in Brisbane or someplace like that, where you're in a big city and you have the ability to attract workforce and talent more easily just because of numbers. So logically, we probably should have put this facility in Tucson. It's the only decent-sized city near where we are, probably a lot easier to attract workforce. We would not have had a local workforce if we did that. And also, we would not have probably had the stability in our workforce if we had done that. And so we made a very different decision to put this in Nogales, a town of about 15,000 people, about 30 miles from the site, but where most of our workforce will come from. The reason we did that is, one, it gives us a better chance of attracting a local workforce. We think a local workforce will be more stable, will be with us longer, and we'll have less turnover. But I think the other thing is it addresses a lot of the barriers to entry we've seen for new people to come into our industry and be willing to consider a job in mining for a long time. So in our community, if you think about proximity to support systems, family, proximity to schools, childcare, daycare. We have a transportation issue in our community. A lot of them don't have transportation. And so we have many people in our local community, and I think this is the case a lot of places, that would not consider a job if they have to drive to the mine site and go underground. But we'll have more than 200 people working at this facility 24/7. With the use of technology, we can train people with no mining experience in 18 months to do a lot of jobs in this facility. So short training period for inexperienced people addresses the barriers to entry. We believe this is going to give us the opportunity to attract a lot more people to consider jobs with Hermosa that probably would have never considered jobs in the industry before. So locating it there was a very important step. It'll also have a very different look and feel, and it will create different ways of working. It will not be like what we've had in the past. So we're already seeing a strong response. We're engaging the community on these opportunities. The first programs, as I said, roll out this month. We've probably had double the approaches to get into these training programs than what we had planned, and believe that it is starting to work. The other thing having a facility like this in the local communities does for us is it gives us a chance to take K-12 students and community stakeholders and show them what next generation mining looks like. I think the biggest thing we can do is bust the paradigm that this is a last century industry, and taking them into this facility and showing them how we use next generation technology, not just automation, but AI and other things. I think that we've already seen some of that be successful in busting a lot of these paradigms. So as a result, we believe that we will have a homegrown workforce. We believe we'll have a culture that will be different, and next generation ways of working to match the next generation design of the mine. So in summary, for us, particularly with where we're at right now, creating a workforce and a culture that matches the way we've envisioned the mine, the vision we've had for the mine from a design and operational standpoint, is equally as important. We are talking a lot about being different. I think the industry has to differentiate itself from the past. Growing shared value, how do we do that? I think we're finding when the community sees opportunities and sees it as a shared value standpoint, it generates a lot of positive momentum around collaboration on workforce, providing leadership and playing a more active role. So you've got to dedicate resources to this, and you can't depend on others to do it for you. Leaving a legacy. So one of the things this project will do, we are going to probably have to create that workforce development ecosystem. We're going to build a new training facility. We're going to staff it. We're going to engage other industries to come into that facility so that we have an all-of-community solution. That is a legacy we can leave that sustains itself beyond the life of the resource, which again is really important for us to get projects up and moving these days. And then last thing, partnering with universities has always been important. We all understand the importance of that, but I think maybe more important than ever, because we've got to go beyond the traditional roles that we've all played, and dig a bit deeper into the younger generation to get the next generation workforce that we'll need to grow the industry and develop these projects. That's it. Thank you.